software we're trying out today. Yeah, so it says we're live. So we're not going to make a big deal out of being live. I want you guys to tune in. My goal is to just have some valuable, important, impactful conversations that we need to have. So everyone that's joining or everyone that will be watching as I start to do more of these conversations, I have an amazing guest. Please introduce yourself.
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Donielle Young. I'm also known as the Grief Disruptor on all platforms. I am here in great company with Mr. Dash and super excited to have some deep conversations to your audience. So thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So to fill everyone in, we had a conversation yesterday, and the conversation was initiated through one of a piece of one of my contents. As far as I try to find different ways to communicate digitally to a massive group of people. So I found one successful way for me as far as creating carousels. Some of you guys may just call it slides on Instagram. So within the last month and a half, we have accumulated almost 10 million views. Starting the carousels off with "Teach Your Son." So I touched on many different topics, and the feedback and the conversations. What I love so much when it comes to the engagement, just seeing parents actually tag their sons. So most of the comments and most of the feedback is parents tagging their sons and they're having dialogue and conversations. So we came in contact with one another because it was actually a video that you commented on, and the video I was talking about the importance of teaching your son to go to the doctor, teaching your son the importance of going to the hospital, and creating that normal pattern to teach him that it's okay, so he don't have this big fear. And I also it was so many things. So even when I'm creating content or creating message, I made sure that I reach 5 to 6 conversations. So also talking about how there's some people in the world that only get tested through their partners, right? Because people have a fear of going to the hospital or getting tested. So they only know what's going on with them by what they communicate and talk to through the person that's going to the hospital. So that's why I seen your comment, and your comment was saying let's show them, and I thought it was insightful for me. You also shared your journey as a wife, and I'll let you fill that in. I'll let you fill in and I'll let you fill in that story. I feel you can touch on your comment and your journey.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So obviously, it really hit me because I am a widow. I lost my husband 3 years ago to stage 4 colon cancer. And so he battled for 2 years. He passed away in 2022. He was actually diagnosed in the middle of our COVID epidemic. And so when you mentioned and had that video about teaching your son how to not be afraid to get mental health services, to go to the doctor, I thought it was just such an important message. And then I wanted to kind of tag on to that and say, we live in a culture now where we have to show our children and we have to show by example. Long are the days that we can just tell our children that the dome light in the car, we're gonna get a ticket if you leave that dome light on. Like I literally believed that until until I saw a reel and I was like, wait a minute, you're not going to get a ticket for leaving the dome light on. But if I don't know, if you had the parents that I had, that's what they kind of instilled in you and you believed it. But now if you tell your children something like that, you know what they're going to do is they're going to pick up their phone and they're going to cross check that. And the only unfortunate thing about Google and AI is that it's going to give you the information that you give it. And so it's always going to be challenging to just give your children information, because the internet is a very very crafty place. I wish the internet would just give good, intentional and accurate information, but that's just not the case. So when you say teach your son, I thought the best way, and what unfortunate but fortunate that we've been able to give our son. I have a 17-year-old man child who's almost 6'4" and 180 pounds. I say that because just to give a visual to what I have to deal with as now a solo mom. But the fact that he had the opportunity to watch the journey of my husband, go to the doctor, have surgeries, go through recovery, um, be willing to talk to therapists and bereavement counselors and have the pastor come in the home and all those things, for him to actually experience the support, was better than any conversation I could have ever had with him in teaching him. And so, yeah, I just wanted to comment on that video and just add that layer, because again, longer the days that we can just tell our children what's right, what's wrong, what's the right thing to do, but to care and take care of ourselves and let them be witness to that. That was important.
So I have a few things that I want to touch on and also give insight for people that may be currently going through this situation, or maybe people have this journey, and not to put it on anyone, but we never know what tomorrow looks like, right? So as a mother and a wife, how did you find the balance and stability to go through the situation, but also land healthy?
Oof. uh, it's an everyday battle. It's a decision and it's a choice. And I always put a disclaimer. There are people out there that have more mental health struggles, right? And they should seek counseling. They should seek their medication, take their medication, right? But I'm coming from a more healthier place, and I made a choice that with all of the childhood trauma and abandonment issues and parent neglect that I experienced along the way up to that point, I made a choice that I wasn't going to let this take me down. We made the choice together that we weren't going to let this take us down. We were very prideful of being the first generation in our immediate family that is a two-parent household. 16 years we were together.
Hold on, ladies and gentlemen. You good?
What happened?
You froze on your end.
Oh, did I?
Yes.
Am I back?
Yes, you're good now.
Okay.
Okay.
No, we were married. We were together for 16 years. And so I don't know what part you caught, but it was important for us. We made a choice to break the generational cycle, to break the curse that we grew up with in broken homes and broken families and things like that. And so when he was diagnosed, it was a choice that we made together. And honestly, he gave me the strength to keep pressing forward and to keep living this thing called life. So every day I look for the joy. I chase the joy. I think whatever you tell yourself, whatever you feed yourself, meaning whatever you watch, whatever you listen to, your environment, the people to whom are around you, impacts you. And I think I was very intentional after he passed away to continue that and make sure that I'm surrounding myself. So I can't do it alone. That's to answer your question. It's not like I'm this like ultra powerful woman who defied all odds. No, it's a daily effort every single morning, every single day. And I'm constantly auditing my circle and my people and my environment to make sure that I am trying to live this best, joyful, beautiful life that I have before me, because I have everything behind me telling me different, right? That's still on my shoulders, by the way. And I'm sure, your audience can attest to that. It's like when you have had a lot of trauma and things like that, it still follows you. It's still there. But I make a choice to kind of move beyond that. And as his wife, taking on that task of caring for him, of creating an environment where we knew it was a terminal illness the moment that he was diagnosed. We bought 2 additional years, and we made a choice. His off chemo weeks We were out disc golfing. Remember, it's COVID, right? So we couldn't go anywhere. We couldn't be around people, but we disc golf and we tried our best to live this thing called life. And I didn't see any other way, to be honest. I don't think I deserve like a badge of honor. I didn't see any other way but to support him and to support our family.
So, with this question, and thank you guys for joining, right? So, with these open, honest, intimate conversations, one thing I always say, if you have never been 100% completely honest out loud, then you have never been yourself in the presence of anyone. So sessions with Dash and the conversations that I want to bring to the algorithm are the conversations that's not readily available, and have people with the experience and the knowledge to translate them and articulate them to become the puzzle pieces that we are all looking for in life. So in this time frame where we have broken families, we have single parent households, sometimes it's emotional turbulence. Sometimes it's uh, this person is cheating, this person is lying, this person is not emotionally available. But the part about marriage, and when it comes to the vows, to death do us part, through sickness and health. And unfortunately, your situation, you are sparring currently, and in real time, we have the smiles, the joy when it comes to putting those rings on. But a lot of people, I don't think people really sit with that. They don't know what that looks like, feels like, to really live with the sickness part, the death part, right?
Yeah.
So what does that look like, and what words of encouragement and what insight can you give to meet that moment, but also be on a journey as a mother parenting a young man that no longer has his father, and you no longer have the rock and the foundation of your family anymore. So what does that look like, not only to be the mother that has to mentally and emotionally pull yourself back together, but make sure that your son is balanced, stable, and has the will to move forward?
Yeah, wow. This is gonna sound crazy. I never really said this out loud, but it's coming over my spirit. Um, I took the responsibility away from me to 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 who my son was going to be. I took the responsibility away from me. It is not me. That's God's job. You know, God is responsible for his character, who he's going to be, what his makeup is going to be. I
Can,
am here. Uh-huh. Can
can
you
you
hear me?
give me can you give me the fight that went into that mindset? What
Yes.
was the fight? Was it heaviness? Was it feeling overwhelmed? Was it
Yes.
like can you give me that perspective?
Yes. So when I say that, I took away the responsibility because the only person I'm responsible for is me. And so I realized I couldn't do both. I couldn't control the situation over here and who he was and who he was trying to become, and also try to control and be responsible for myself. And once, and it was such a beautiful moment. It was it was a reckoning, and I was completely overwhelmed, and I'm frustrated, I'm irritable. I always I told my son, I was like, by the way that I parent you, and I call it, I got it from Dr. Shafali, conscious parenting, right? The way that I parent you is not my default. That's like my slick way of saying it's not how I grew up. It's not my default. It's not in my DNA of how I was raised. And so I have to work hard every day to be aware of his emotional state, his emotional immaturity, his lack of his prefrontal cortex being developed because he's still a teenager. I had to constantly remember that, remind myself of that. But there was a time where I put all of who he was on myself. Same thing with my husband. I put all of whether he was sick, whether he was in pain, did he have enough to eat, did he eat the right foods? I put so much on me. And I did that for a long time, and it burnt me out. It stressed me out, burnt me out, and I couldn't figure out why. What do I do with this? And I had a reckoning one day, and I was just burnt out on the floor, crying again. And I said, I can't do this anymore. And so not doing it wasn't, I give up. Not doing it was something has to change. This isn't working because my son is not getting the best part of me. I'm not getting the best part of me. And so in doing that, I said, wow, I need to pour into me. I need to control what I can control. And that's me. And I know that it's all over the internet, self-care and take care of yourself first, but it is really true. Like the only act of responsibility that you have is yourself. I can't change you. I can't change him. I can't make my husband healthy. I can't do any of that, but I can focus on myself. And it's so fascinating that the moment, literally the moments that I started to do that, my son started changing. I think my nervous system started to calm more when there's a song that Jesus Take the Wheel. It's like I gave it up to him. And I said, God, this is on you. The battle is not mine anymore. I can't control it. And I started to focus on myself. And I'll be honest, initially I felt like I was being selfish. I felt like I wasn't doing enough, as a mom, as a wife, and this is what I've said before. I was a mom, I was a wife, I was a career woman. I was defined by those responsibilities. And so when they were taken away, I'm like, well, who the hell am I now? What outcome do I have to prove to the world that I am of value? And so I had a reckoning to say, wait a minute, why am I attached to something to have a value? And so this wasn't, by the way, this wasn't like one conversation and then I'm like, okay, here I am, I'm of value and I feel worthy. This was several lessons, several trial and errors, and just having a constant reckoning with myself. And then I will add on therapy, 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 therapy. You have to have that other voice, that other person, someone else, human, to be able to connect with. So as I said yesterday, to call out the bullshit that you're speaking, and also for you to hear it out loud. And that's why I also love these interviews and these podcasts and social media, because sometimes you say things and you're like, ooh, wow. You can really just kind of reflect it back on yourself. But I believe that what you put out there and what the environment that you have around you is what is actually going to feed you. And I've lived it, and it is true, that once I started taking care of myself and giving myself that value and giving myself that worthiness, everything else around me changed. So yeah, I don't know, as far as like, it was a struggle. It wasn't easy. It's not easy to have a reckoning with yourself. It isn't. It's not easy to look inward. It's so much easier to point the finger back at someone else. It's so much easier to blame the world. It's so much easier to blame the cancer. It's so much easier to blame the doctors and the surgeons and the whatever. It's so much easier. But for me, it didn't serve me. It didn't serve me to have that angst, even what's going on in the world today. There's a lot of people carrying this heavy load of what's happening around us and the politics and the president, everything. It's like, it's so much easier to point the finger. But for me, I can't carry that. I have two decades of devastation behind me. I can't carry what's happening around the world and what everyone else is doing when I'm trying to, right underneath my rooftop, keep everything a hold. And so I don't subscribe to it. I won't subscribe to it. And I will constantly be a work in progress and just trying to manage what's in front of me.
Very well articulated. So, taking control of your mental, taking control of your mindset. So wherever you are, maybe your situation is different. I always say it's one world, but it's many different realities. Every mind is its own reality. So we are living and we are trading experiences, right?
Yeah.
So maybe I may deal with heartbreak a certain way. Maybe you may deal with heartbreak a certain way. Maybe your household looks a certain way. Maybe you practice a different religion or culture. But when it comes to the way tomorrow looks, and when it comes to the way life looks, we're looking at images and we're looking at pictures, the way that we communicate and share words and energy and vibration with one another.
Yeah.
Whatever your situation is, whether you allow it to land and you find the peace of mind and the harmony in the moment, it's a difference between being alive and living,
That is
right?
true.
So some people just wake up and you're just here and you go where the day takes you. But if you
Yeah.
understand that you have the power to say, I am the painter of today. I am the artist of today. And regardless how the picture looks in the moment, I control the brush, right? And even deeper than that, you have a whole universe on your side, right? However the world translate that, right? Some people, maybe Buddha, Jehovah, Allah. I always say, don't judge the picture while the creator is still painting, right? So you have no idea how the masterpiece is going to end. You have no idea who may interpret the masterpiece, how they may interpret the masterpiece. So whatever your situation is and whatever you're looking at in the mirror of life, once you allow your mind to be controlled, I always say don't let the outer world affect your inner world. So speaking to parenting, speaking to, when I share my journey, when it comes to the young man that I always was intuitive, I always was insightful, I always was creative. And my creativity and how I held on, like it feels like yesterday when I used to smell a teddy bear because it smelled like my house. But when I was used to be in a foster home, but I used to go in the room, I used to put the covers over my head, and I used to smell this teddy bear, and the smell made me feel like I was home because I was never physically home. And being a young man that processed the world in that way of yearning for a father, yearning for family, yearning for love, and we are all feedback. So we may meet beautiful people while they're still developing. And that same person, we're holding on to pain when we all have the opportunity to grow, change, and evolve, right? So some people are holding on to the memories of a caterpillar when that caterpillar is a butterfly. You go through the transition, you go through the transformation. And sometimes we're forced to go through the transformation. Sometimes we don't want any parts of the pain that's going to turn us into the butterfly, right? But I would say, you can't hold on and jump at the same time. You have everything you need right now in this moment, at this moment. You are
Yes.
here. But sometimes we allow work to get in the way. Sometimes we allow relationships to get in the way. And I'm not saying allow like we raise our hand and we give permission for pain. But whatever you are going through, give yourself the time and space to step back. Give yourself the time and space to zoom out right? Because sometimes we're so close to everything going on, but it's like I said, if you zoom all the way in on someone's face when you're taking a picture, what are you capturing? What's your goal? So sometimes we just have to zoom up, zoom out. Sometimes we have to step back because our reality is pixelated. Our reality is buffering, you know? So give yourself time to connect to the moment. Give yourself time to connect to your heart. Give yourself, and I always say healing is allowing your mind to catch up with your heart. Sometimes we go through painful moments, painful experiences, and we don't want to feel what's connected to those experiences, so we stunt our growth because we're running from this pain and we're running from this heartache. So speaking to these conversations, and I have a question for you. So one thing when it comes to your trials and tribulations and the things that you've been through, but what is a mind, what let me get this clear, because I want to cut this piece, so hopefully you'll give me the insight that I need. What is the mindset of a mother building and developing a young man? What is your
Oh,
motivation? What is your motivation? Is your motivation, because I always say, and not to put this to you, right? Because I get the feedback, I have the opportunity to talk and communicate and have one-on-one sessions with women, and I learn so much. So even though I'm there to help and give advice, and I always say advice, if it works, add it. If it don't, delete it. So when it comes to like me being a father, and it's like, okay, I wanted to be the man that I wish showed up for me. And I wanted to give the love, the motivation, the inspiration, and the substance that I didn't have. I wanted to give the puzzle pieces of love that I didn't have. But as a woman, it's like, what is the mindset? Like, I want my son to be different from the men that I meet. Like, what is the motivation and the mindset that goes into a mother loving and nurturing a young man?
oh, that's such a good question and so deep. Um, my answer to that question is going to come from a very privileged place. And I was married to a Jamaican black man from Brooklyn, New York, who was an incredible human being. And I don't say that because when people pass away, they tend to shrine them. Like all of a sudden they died, and like they were the light in the room, you know. If you remember, it's like actually I remember him being a jerk. Like I don't know, but no. Truth be told, I got so many messages from coworkers and people that I didn't know that knew him. Long messages from men, long paragraph text messages about him from men, but even intimately being with him, just a good person. And he had a lot of trauma, childhood trauma, and didn't have a two-parent household. And his father wasn't really a part of his life and things like that. And so when I said earlier that we made a choice that we were going to do something different, we did it blindly, right? We didn't know how or what. So we informed and educated ourselves, and anything that made sense, we did it, whether it was right or wrong or whatever. Anything that made sense, we were looking to do it. One of them was talking to our children instead of hitting them, spanking them, taking our emotion and ego out on them, right? So it was taking a moment for ourselves and having an actual conversation with them. And when they would do the why and what is this, back in my day, you don't ask why. It's because I said so. But then understanding that children are asking the whys because they need context as to what's happening. They're developing. So those kind of things, reading all the books and doing all the things. And so I say all that to say that I come from a privileged place and that he was a good dad. I picked a good one, thank God. It could have happened a couple different ways throughout my life, but thank the Lord that this is who I picked to be the father of my child. And so for 14 years, he was the dad, he was the father, he was involved, he was a coach, and he was a good dude, just home every night, did all the things. And so I say that to say that my son had the privilege of having a man and a father in his life for 14 years. And I'll give you an example, the only story I will ever tell, because by the way, my son banned me from having any conversations about him because obviously he's a teenager and I don't know, he's going to be president one day or so. I don't know, but I can't really talk about him. But I do tell this story. We went to our bereavement counselor. I think it was like a year after my son passed away. We go to a bereavement counselor, and she said, "How you doing?" And he goes, "I'm happy and I'm sad." And she's like, "Well, what are you sad about?" And he's like, "I'm sad that I miss my dad." And she said, "Okay." And she said, "Well, what are you happy about?" Oh God, every time I say it, I get choked up. He said, "I am grateful that I had that time with him, that I had 14 years with him," is what he said. For him to have that, I almost fell out the chair. Like, here I am, the mom, trying to keep my composure and play it cool because I don't want to embarrass him. But she looked at him and she said, "Do you know that there are some adults that don't get that? There's some adults that want to live in the deep dark, the oh, woe is me, play the victim and say how he's gone now. And instead, here is this child that is grateful for the 14 years that he had." Now, what does that mean to me, who didn't have a father, who had a father that came in and came out and was kind of here and sort of here, and so I have all the abandonment stuff going on. And so for him to recognize that that is a place to have full gratitude, that was something of value, is a testament to the foundation that we laid down for him together. He did not take that for granted. You know, there are some kids that don't know that until they're an adult and say, wow, that was, but he knew it right then. I had great moments with my dad. I had a good father, and he felt good about that. And so, you know, when you ask about being a mom and raising a young Black boy who looked like a man at 15, right, 14, 15 years old when he started getting height, it is a challenge. It is a everyday challenge for me. I don't have all the answers. I don't have it all figured out, but I've also, again, taken the responsibility on having it all figured out. And I found the secret sauce in saying, I'm not responsible for who he becomes. I'm responsible for who I become. And through who I become is how he becomes a better person. And that's exactly what his dad did. And that's exactly the traits that he has from his dad. You know, he tells me, oh, I'm going too much, but he tells me like some of the things that he does is because his dad did them, the way that he takes care of himself and so forth. And so for me as a mom, I cannot give that male energy to him. You know, and I know this is controversial to every person or some people or your audience, but I do not believe that I am the mom and the dad. I will never be his father. I will never give him what he needs as his dad. I don't try to. I don't want to fulfill those. Now, do I have to take him back and forth to practice? Do I have to remind him of, you know, how he shows up in the world? Do I have to maybe pitch a baseball to him every once in a while, you know, to you know, because his coach is not available or whatever have you? Sure. But do I also become the dad director and saying, hey, Kenya, I need your husband to come by and come pick up Blake. I need, hey, Natalie, I need your husband, Brian, who's a police officer, by the way, to come by and talk to Blake, because I need that male energy. I'm a single woman, so I don't have, you know, a partner around to give him that, but I know how important that is. And you know, one of the questions should be, how did you know that? I didn't know that until it happened by accident. And there was, again, I don't give too much information, but there was something that happened, and I had to call on my friend's husband and say, listen, I need you to come and help me out. I can't do this. And I noticed the change in him. And I said, oh, I'm going to make this a habit, and I'm going to direct this, and I'm going to have a lot of my other friends, husbands, come pick him up. Come pick him up, come do whatever you want with him. And you know, that was important to me. So I think as women, as a wife, as myself, for me, I had to understand that I can't replace his dad. I will not, and I cannot replace his dad. but then also, again, from a privileged place, feel really good about he had 14 years with his father. I had maybe collectively or cumulatively three, maybe four if I add up all the time in my lifetime. And so I use that to my advantage, and I'm grateful for those pieces. So I can understand that there's a lot in your audience that don't have that, right? That the father was maybe never a part of their lives, or, and so forth, and they possibly have a bigger challenge. But that's where you have to be the dad director. You have to understand your role and responsibility as a woman, that you cannot deliver that dad energy. You cannot. You can try to guide them and give them certain tools, but you have to you have to find that male role model somewhere, at the school, at the basketball court. And, again, I like to give practical steps. If I can segue a little bit in something you were talking about, I like to give practical steps to some of the ways that you can kind of influence a joy or good energy. Check your algorithm. We spend, if we're being honest, 85, 75, 60, whatever it is, more than half of our time online. What does your algorithm look like on your phone? And bridging it together, if I was really focused on being a very conscious parent to my son, what does that look like? What do I need to do? Am I following someone like Dash? Who am I following to be influenced on what I'm trying to deliver? And that goes for anything that you're trying to accomplish in your life, because I know that I spend a lot of time on my phone. It just is what it is. And so I have to take an assessment, and I'm constantly auditing, because yes, I still get pulled into to the salacious bullshit that's out there. And I have to come back and I have to say, okay, let me go back to the search and change it to all men are not dogs. Dating is not horrible, because it will feed you that. And you have to kind of recalibrate and go back and say, this is the first step that I need to change in my life, and say, okay, enough is enough. I need to feed myself better information so that I can then output better.
I think that's a conversation there, because I always say technology mimics human behavior. You have a digital algorithm, and you have a mental and emotional algorithm, right? So let's go into this thought. How can you be the mother, not you, right? But how can you be the mother to consume content, all men are dogs, liars, cheaters, and then you open the door, or you prepare food for a young man that you are producing and putting into the world, right? So if you could speak to that, how do you heal that, right? How do you heal the dopamine hit of, maybe it is an emotional process someone is going through. So maybe for clarity purposes, and maybe for sanity purposes, to paint one gender, right? So if I have been heartbroken as a man, and I don't have the words to communicate and articulate what took place in my relationship, and maybe, because I always say this, show me two people that genuinely care about one another that's separated, I'll show you two people that ran out of information. Right?
Wow.
Because
Wow. Do me a favor. Can you say that one more time?
it's one of my favorites as well, right?
Yeah.
Show me two people that genuinely cared about one another that separated, and I'll show you two people that ran out of information. Right? Because it's easy to be attracted to someone physically. It's easy to connect to someone. It's easily to have the highs of getting to know someone for a month, 2 months. But to have longevity, it takes information. It takes compassion. So back to my point, right? Let's say I don't have the words or the insight to articulate what broke down in a relationship. So now you log on and you get the dopamine hits all women are gold diggers. And okay, that may feel good to digitally interact, to build a community around your pain. And you're giving feedback around your pain. And now you're consuming this, right? But now, if you're a father and you have a young lady that you're raising, and you have to separate your emotions from your commitment and discipline to cultivate a love to produce, because you are manufacturing a soul that will one day be a young lady and a woman in the world. And this will be someone's mother and wife. So I always say, are you pouring the love, time, and attention into the young soul and mind that you birthed into the world to be different from what you search and complain about on the algorithm? So I want you to speak to that. When it comes to the algorithm, what has that done for you, right? The fact that you are a mother, building, creating, and manufacturing a young man, and you had the opportunity to be with an amazing man from how you light up and communicate. But what does that do for you? And I don't I'm not, I know you can't speak for all women, but what challenge does that present? What contradictions does, because I always say every man that every woman encounter was once someone's son. I always say everybody has a baby picture. Everybody have a baby picture. That narcissist, that whatever that man is to you, that man was once on someone's shoulder being burped. That man once was having his pampers changed, right? And it was up to the parents, the caretakers, to provide the love, the compassion, the emotional connection, to give that man the ability to show up differently. And I'm not putting it all on the parents, right? Because I speak to that as well. You know that song? I forgot. I think Whitney Houston. I'm every woman who. I don't think she. I was gonna sing the note, but yeah. I'm every man.
Yeah.
I could speak to the narcissist stage. I could speak to the cold, numb, dismissive. I don't know. Say the word dismissive stage. I could speak to every stage. I always say it's a difference between being a broken boy, a male, and a man, right? But now, if I was to unpack the layers, so when we talk about compassion and empathy, so someone could be connected to my lack of development. And I'm not here to blame everything on trauma, right? But it's easy to say what a man's responsibility is. But you have to understand that a man can only respond to his ability, right? If I don't know, if you put a book in front of me and I can't read, I'm not reading because I don't care. No, if I struggle, like mental health and emotional intelligence and intelligence, they're comparable, right? So if I'm struggling, do you have the love and capacity to provide the love and compassion that I need, right? So when I showed up in the world as the cold, numb, emotionless man, that was the feedback of my upbringing. I was raised in a household where I wasn't allowed to express myself. I was raised in a household, whenever I was crying, my mother would beat me until I stopped crying. I was raised in a household, when I communicate household, I always say household. Your household will have a hold on you for the rest of your life, right? So I was a representation of the pain that I endured as a young man. Now, the time and attention that I had to invest in myself to go through this transition, to learn, to heal, to grow, to spar, to participate every day, to become the man, the father, the friend, the brother, to be a reflection of, because sometimes I'm like, I'm translating pain. I always say pain is a language, you know, and pain does two things. It comes with impact and information. But sometimes we spend our whole entire life running from the impact that we don't extract the information.
Sure.
So I can communicate and articulate my childhood. I can communicate and articulate every phase and stage of my life. And I find myself doing in my sessions like, oh, my husband is doing this and what is this, right? So I can't speak for every man, but I can articulate what these circumstances and situations look like. I know it. I know I live in the body of a young man that has been violated. I live in the body of a young man, you know, that struggled academically, that was suppressed, didn't know how to communicate, didn't know how to feel my feelings, didn't know how to feel my smile. Like, so I could see young men with facial expressions that's related to my pain. Oh, I know that face. I know that pain. That was me. I lived there before,
Yeah.
you know? So I had a point, and I know like we went. So
No,
hopefully it was
it's
some
okay.
food.
It's good.
Yeah, hopefully it was some food in there. Well, I know it
Yeah.
was some food in there. But my question for you was, how do you separate being a mother, whether it's you speaking to, helping, guiding, or giving the information for mothers, but that attractive algorithm that's given the paintbrush of a narrative that may feel good, but if you are a mother cultivating, nurturing, and putting a man out in the world, how do you differentiate that?
It's so I love. Okay, so it's so many. I had to write notes. So many things. Number one, and this happened when we spoke yesterday. I get emotional when it comes to you and when you speak right now. It is so incredibly important to have our black men to not only go through the reckoning of their childhood and to really um, be able to translate what they've experienced, but then on top of that, to very bravely and courageously come on publicly and say, this is what I've been through, this is what I felt, this is what happened to me, these are the, and I don't, I again, I've said this on my channel, I don't believe in mistakes, I believe in lessons, because I believe that lack of information is what causes us to behave in certain manners. And unless we're manic or horrible people, if we had better information, then we would likely behave better or learn better or be better. But the bravery and the courageousness of not only a man that has been traumatized, but a black man to come on publicly and to create an environment and a platform for other men and most especially other women to understand what your plight has been. Like, I give incredible kudos to you, and I'm telling you, every time that I speak to you, we know the story that I didn't even know really who you were, and there's a story there of your son and how I knew your son. I saw that my personal channel was following you. I haven't touched my personal channel in years, and I'm like, wow, I've been following you since way back when. But for you to be able to come on and be an offering and be of service to share that is so incredible and so priceless. And before we get into anything else, I want to say from me to you, from a woman that has experienced great love and a great man and all the things, I'm telling you that what you're doing is so important, and I appreciate you and I love you. I love you dearly, and I thank you for being so courageous to have the conversation that a lot of us need to hear.
No, because now I felt that, and I was saying I'm gonna be like you yesterday. I'm starting to cry. I appreciate that. I need to hear that. I accept it. It landed, and we all need to hear that. So as men, we need to hear that, and I know women need to hear that. So So thank you. So I don't
Yes.
want to get
No,
too
receive
emotional.
that, Dad. Let's see. Now I'm gonna get Dash
Yeah,
on his own channel. You're gonna sit there and you're
yeah,
gonna
yeah,
receive that.
yeah.
There's nothing that you need to say. There's nothing that I want you to give back to me. I want you to sit there and I want you to just receive that because it's important. It is an important statement that I want you to truly feel the power in that. In answering your question, there's so many notes that I wrote down. Um, I was a very, very troubled, confused woman, especially as a young adult. I have no idea. My husband told me that he waited. We were together for 16 years, but we were only married for 11 because he said I wasn't ready yet. And he was not lying, but he was not lying. So that goes against all the whatever dating stuff that's out there, whatever. But yes, he waited 5 years because he never wanted to get divorced. And so, you know, I came from a lot of turmoil, a lot of issues with not understanding my value, not understanding my worthiness, always wanting to do the most to show that I am enough. And that's where becoming the best wife and the best mom and reading all the books. And my husband was Jamaican. I'm not Jamaican. I'm not even Caribbean, truth be told. Although my my stepdad, my dad's side of the family is from my stepdad's side of the family is from Bermuda, and I grew up from Bermuda, so I like to claim it because I'm always trying to find identity somewhere. So I like to think I'm Caribbean. Those that know, maybe by injection, but anyway. So I know how to. If you caught that, you caught it. But I know how to cook. I learned how to cook all the foods. I learned how to do all the things because my worth was attached to that. My worth was attached to. Can I make a happy and fulfilling household? And so when that got stripped away from me, it's like, okay, so now what? And so I say that to say, now that I have done the exercise and done the therapy and read all the books and done all the things, now I'm making a decision that I will not subscribe to anything that's not in my purview of where I'm trying to go, period. And again, I told you just a few minutes ago, I have to constantly recalibrate that. And so when you ask, how do you do that? How does that look? That's what it's a sometimes a daily effort, right? Because I get caught up, especially friends, like they send you things and you know, you click on it and I'm like, oh, wow, that's interesting. But then I have to remind myself, Donielle, we're not subscribing to that. We're not subscribing to the conversation about gold diggers. I will say on this platform, I'm 100,000% a gold digger. I do not subscribe to the struggle. I will not go through what I have gone through, being the wife that I was, to subscribe to the struggle. I want gold. When you go to the grocery store and you look at the produce, you do not look for the bruised lemon and say, I'll dust this off and maybe I can make it work. No, you're going to look for the freshest, shiniest lemon in the bunch, right? And that's what I'm going to look for. And then the comments are going to come in and they're going to say, well, how do we know that you're that and you're this? You don't know. But guess what? I know what I know. I know who I am. And I know that I do not want to subscribe to the struggle.
But look,
But,
but
yep.
I think you added a helpful, valuable layer, right? Because we talk about being a gold digger, but it's in the contents of the gold, right? For some people, your heart could be the gold. For some people, your soul could be the gold. For some people, your mental and emotional health, your mental capacity could be the gold.
Yeah.
Because there's so many different perspectives, right? Some people chase the financial perspective of the gold, and then a person is mentally and emotionally bankrupt. They don't,
Have a bad character.
they can't love. They don't have discipline, right? So I'm not going to like, that's a gamble or perspective, right? So I like the layer that you added to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
Yeah, no. But that was just an example of me making the decision of what I'm deciding to subscribe to and not subscribe to. So when it comes to being online and the algorithm of your life, everything that you feed yourself, and this is going to be controversial too, Dash. I don't watch a lot of reality TV. are very particular about the reality TV. And guess who taught me that? My late husband. So I'll tell you a quick story. Remember the Love and, not remember, I guess it's still on. I don't know. The Love and Hip Hop days or the Real Housewives of Atlanta or whatever have you, especially when it first came out. I think it was better when it first came out. And I'm watching it every week. I watch all the shows, do all the things. And then we were having an interaction about something. He turned around and looked at me and he said, "Oh yeah, you sounding like those girls on that TV show." I was like, you know, and then walked away and I was like, wait a minute, I think he has a point to that. So instead of him walking up to me and saying, "I don't want you watching that anymore," and he just made a comment. And that comment impacted, it took a little while because I was already invested in the show. So I had to see what was happening. But like later on, it made sense that I'm feeding myself this energy that this show is creating, rightfully so, right? Because they're making money. This is what the world wants. This is what is out there. But I have a decision. I had a decision at that point to say, do I really want to carry that energy? Is that really who I want to be? So that just goes back to, like you said, what you're feeding yourself, what your algorithm is, and then knowing your capacity. I do want to leave your audience with this. I worked really hard in understanding what my capacity was. And what I mean by that is I can't carry the weight of the world or the news on my shoulders. I am going through grief. I will go through grief until the day I die. If I ever date or meet another partner, they need to know that was a love that was part of my heart and my life. It will forever be there. Because forever that you have love for that person is forever that you have grief. In my opinion, I feel that grief is an exposer. Grief exposes what was already there. So if you had insecurity, if you had anger management issues, you were anxious, anxiety, depressed, whatever those issues are, it is an exposer to that. So it lends an opportunity, should you be strong enough to kind of weather the deep dark. Because the question is, oh, well, was she always? No. Don't get it twisted. I've had my deep dark moments. I still have them. They're not as frequent as they used to. But what those deep dark moments taught me was that I'm here and I can climb out of this because I have once before. And so I use that data and I use that information now so I can climb out of it a lot quicker. But knowing your capacity, I can't handle right now a lot of chaos, right? I can't manage it. And so if I have friends that are going through a divorce or going through, I had a friend whose mother passed away and I couldn't handle that. I couldn't go to the funeral, and thank God she was a friend that understood that. And this is 3 years later, but I know my capacity and I know that going to that funeral will set me back on my healing journey. So just being aware and understanding what your capacity is and what you can manage. Because honestly, I feel like most people, that's what happens, is that they get overwhelmed trying to take on more than what their capacity is. And then they can't understand why they're snapping at people and why they're so irritable and so forth and so on. And so, yeah, I don't subscribe. I know my capacity. And I'm constantly recalibrating myself, constantly, every day. And it's when it comes to my son and parenting. And by the way, this is also, we probably have to do a whole nother thing here. But I should say it, shouldn't I, Dash? I have a personal to being called a single mom because
Can you just, because you kind of, I want you to say that clear. You have a what? A personal, what was it?
Yeah, because I didn't say the word. That's why. Good of you to catch that. All right. So it's I call myself a solo mom, right? Because being called a single mom has this stigma, this horrible stigma in the world. And because I worked so hard at cultivating this environment of a two-parent household, it's not a negative thing. Being a single mom is not a negative thing. It's just not my story, right? And so and it goes back to the microaggressions that I experience in corporate America, right? And I had a woman say, we were doing an event, and she said, "Oh, because Donielle, you're a single mom, right?" "Oh, why?" "Because I'm the only black woman in this region. Now, all of a sudden, I'm labeled as a single mom. What is that? What does that mean, right?" And so, because I work so hard at that, I know that that's not my story. I have others, abandonment and daddy issues and all the other things.
Mm.
But for me, we worked so hard at building that union that cancer took my husband. It wasn't a choice. He did not create a single mother in me. And I feel like that takes away his legacy, for me to have uh, to assume for others, not our community, but for others to assume that I am a single mom because this man left me, or this
Mm.
man is no longer a part of my life. And
Mm.
that just isn't my story, right? My mom was a single mom, right? My friends are single moms. But I call myself a solo mom. And boy, is that going to be controversial, Dash.
No, but the thing about the algorithm and the thing about the ecosystem of the world, like, we have power. When we think about words, when we think about virality, when we think about something that connects to the world, when we think about ideas, inventions, and creativity, these are people's thoughts. Your thoughts are just as powerful to put out into the world that becomes a home for the rest of the world. So if you have something to add and give to the world and you want to establish and create a normal ecosystem, say it, speak it, communicate it, and stand in it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because you
I want
at
to add to that.
yeah.
I just want to add something to that. It's on my heart to say it. I don't think it's fair, and that's why I always, whenever I talk about being a mom to my teenager and taking away the responsibility in a way that I parent him, I always say I'm coming from a privileged place.
Mm.
My mom was a single mom. I never had really a dad in my household, right? And so I'm saying that and holding responsibility for the single moms out there. So before I say anything about my opportunity to parent him in this particular way, I know that there's single moms out there that don't have that opportunity, right? That
Mm.
they're out there working 2 and 3 jobs, and they're going to school, and they're doing all the things. I had a husband in the house who would take care of those things, which allowed me to grow in my career and do the things that I did, right? So I think that's the other reason why I'm very careful and very aware and very gentle and how I even talk about how I parent my son, because there's a level of privilege that I have to be able to even do that, and also the way that he is.
Mm.
So some of the challenges that I think that I don't encounter is because of the relationship that we cultivated in this household. So I don't have a lot of the challenges that single moms have in trying to carry the load of both. So I'm very aware. I have experienced both. I just, I stand 10 toes down that I am grateful and honored that I had the ability and the love and the attention from my husband for 14 years with my son, that I don't carry that title, if that makes sense.
No, there's much needed, and there's so much value in that. So we're coming up on an hour, and I wanted to hold this to an hour conversation. But I feel we'll be doing this a few more times. And for everyone joining, we're going to build this YouTube channel up to millions and millions of people. And I want to give this value. I want to give this honesty. I want to give this integrity and freedom. Vulnerability is the highest level of self-love and truth. And it's missing in the algorithm. I feel like, a lot of people, it's just an ecosystem of monetization. So people are thinking about, what can I get and what can I gain? So
Yeah.
people are turning into the person they need to be to accumulate things. And I think television and the vision and the stories that we are telling are disconnected from reality. Maybe I trademark that. Reality. And I always say, don't confuse real life with real life. You know what you're seeing on Instagram and the 1 minute, 2 minute videos.
Oh my gosh, what?
You funny,
Let
like
me
you.
call my attorney right now. Hold on.
Nah, it's cool. That happens to me all day online. I see so much stuff. I just say, but in closing, please let them know what you have going on. Let them know where they could
Yeah.
see you, where they could catch you. You know.
Yes. Oh my God. So yes, follow me. I am the Grief Disruptor. I'm on all the platforms under Grief Disruptor, and I have a book. It's called the G3 Playbook, from grief through the grit to the glow up. And you can find all of that information on my bio. I'm currently committing to a workshop once a month. I just completed a workshop on Sunday. It's called Not Everybody Gets to Stay, Auditing Your People After Loss. And so, kind of how do you do that after you've experienced significant loss? And that could be a divorce, it could be health, it could be a job, or it could be a spouse as well. And so, I'll have a lot of other workshops coming, dating while widowed, traveling while widowed, parenting while widowed. My goal as the grief disruptor, also known as the modern widow, is to show and talk about the messy middle. In my category of widowhood and grief, you find online, which is just what Dash said, either the deep dark doom despair, because that's what's selling, that's what people are for whatever reason connected to, that's what they're monetizing from, all the sadness. Or you have the over spiritualized, I was there and now I'm here, but no one's talking about everything in between, in the middle, and how do I, go to the grocery store after going through grief, and what does that look like? And so I'm charged with showing the identity change that happens when you have loss, whether it be a parent, whether it be a spouse, what that identity shift looks like, and how do you manage through that. So follow me on the Grief Disruptor. On the 15th of every month, I'll have a workshop. I also have a playbook that you can follow too, and a YouTube series coming soon. Hopefully Dash will help me.
So thank you guys. I don't take your ears for granted. I don't take your eyes for granted, and I apologize, do and don't, for you guys that have been following me on Instagram, TikToks. I know those are the short form platforms, and I keep telling you guys I'm gonna be more consistent. This is my goal to these conversations are needed. These conversations it's not it's not for me, it's for the world. And I want to thank you guys for following my journey. And I'm speaking to and I'm speaking through this content as if it has already, right? Because it is a job to be fully committed, because it's not about just getting through to your audience. Like, these platforms want you to be active, they want you to be present and consistent. So that's all we're missing and lacking over here. So if you guys do value me, appreciate what I add, please share the content, please share what it is that we're trying to build. If you have a story, I'm also looking for mental health professionals. We need your advice, we need your information. I'm also looking for young men. If you have a story and you feel like you have something to add to the world, you are a celebrity, you are a superstar, you are important. You don't have to have millions of followers. You are valuable. Trying to achieve, if you have peace of mind, you are successful. So many people, regardless of what they have in their bank, where we're trying to find peace, we're trying to find advice, we're trying to find stories and information that helps us find peace of mind and sanity. So also you can log on to my website, sessionswith-dash.com. I release a book in October. When the little boy is healed, the man will show up. Amazing, 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 independently, without Amazon and everything else. So thank you for all of you guys that purchased the book. I also released 5 ebooks last month around helping. I don't know all the titles by heart, but you guys can log on to sessionswith-dash.com to locate those books and information as well. So look forward to building with you guys. Look forward to building this community of a safe, balanced, loving digital. I call it a digital safe space. So we're gonna build, we're gonna grow. So thank you so much for the conversation. we'll have you back, and I would love to build on the conversation of like what life looks like after, and even dating, like what life looks like. So I would like to build on those conversations.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
it's a lot of value there. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna end it here.